your question is also very problematic. Of course, anyone would want to rise in whatever space they find themselves organically. But what we as women are asking is for you guys to open up that space. Sometimes, even if you work so hard, that door is always shut. And this is because we live in such a patriarchal society where women are not normally recognized for their hard work. They are not recognized for their effort, and that's the argument most men advance, that we want to be elevated, but we don't want to be wheelbarrowed. We want the same opportunity given to our male counterparts, we give it to women counterpart. And
no, there's an application for board opportunities to become board members, and the application is open to everybody. Why must we reserve 3 positions for you?
Because if we have to leave it as open as it is, you would end up with a board of having 7 male. And why is that the case? Are the women that applied not disqualified as the male counterpart?
That is a question that we must answer, because how does it end up being just men? It means perhaps that they were best of the lot that applied.
Of all, this is, you see, this is why it's important.
Because I don't think, Dominga, I don't think anyone will say, look, you are scoring these people, a woman gets 85%, there's a guy who got 68, and on the basis of just being a man, you ignore the woman that has 87 and then you elevate them. I don't think that is how it is done.
Yes, of course. I think that will be very careless in that regard. But the issue is, why is it that women are not given the same access in terms of that compared to their male counterpart? Because you would go to a place where the board mainly consists of men, but they are equally qualified women. Is it because of the structural barriers that they are confronted with? Like I said, access to information is one. Because we have a tendency, especially within this country, where people hoard onto information. They would just give it to Toys because they know Tata Toys, and they wouldn't give it to Dominga because I am not acquainted to Dominga, and so forth. So perhaps we need to look at the barriers. Why is it that women are not given the same opportunity? Is it access to information? 1. 2, is it because perhaps they are not qualified enough, which I doubt, because when you look at the graduation statistics, every graduation season, more women are graduating as opposed to men. So where do those women go to?
Women were beating us hands down at university.
Exactly.
The cum laude lady in my class of 2006 at UNAM was a woman.
Exactly. So what happens to those women? Do we lose them within the system, or do they do not have access to the system? Of course, we can say that most of them, they tend to start building their families because that's what it's requested from society. Just today when I entered in this interview, your colleague asked when I was going to get married. Of course, perhaps he said it in good faith, but those are some of perhaps the barriers that women are confronted with, that when you reach at a certain age, you need to slow down on your ambitions, and you need to start building your family to contribute to society and so forth. So that is what we need to look at. Why is it that we lose this woman in the system, despite us really being deliberate with educating the girl child or woman in particular, and having policies that speaks to the empowerment of women?
Yeah. In fairness, the question about marriage, we were also asked a lot of that by people, because they felt that we've reached the age to get married, and marriage is just as much a burden to me as it is to you.
It's not as intense compared to your female counterpart.
Okay, fair point. No, I agree. There are biological obligations that weigh more heavily on the wife than the husband.
Of course.
I do accept that. But tell me about this. These organizations like yours, where we say where we say it's young women of Africa. It's important. In Namibia, we have organizations like, I've seen things like Women in Oil, Women in this, Women in that. And I saw Dr. Job Mpanda asking in Parliament the other time, and he even used the term perfumed women,
Woman.
which angered the speaker a little
Yes.
bit. And the point I think that he was driving home, especially in that sense, is that is the lack of representation of the common woman.
Correct.
It's people with MBAs, people with executive positions who are teaming up, and there's really, because if you are saying that men have sort of built a firewall around positions and stuff like that, the same could be said about those women also, having really occupied that space. They appropriate the term women by not including a woman from Havana.
Correct.
How do we make sure that organizations like yours are not really just for you graduates and you professionals, and that a meme who sells kapana as a vendor in Okurangaba can also be part of the system?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. And mostly, if you really see a lot of women organizations, they mostly include women that are learned, educated women, or women that find themselves within that sector. I think an organization like Young Women of Africa really gives an opportunity for us to engage rural women. I think most of our programs are very rural centered. They are people centered, and we believe that for you to build an organization, it should be from bottom up and not up to bottom. So our programs are structured, are women-centered or people-centered, because we would also like to uplift the material conditions of rural women.
Yeah.
And mostly rural women are excluded, and the policies that are always advanced at national level do not speak to the lived realities of rural women. This is why during our continental convention each year, we always go down to the grassroots level and invite those rural women, and we pay for their flight tickets so that they get an opportunity to get onto the flight, they get an opportunity to attend these conventions and also deliberate towards the discussions and contribute. So this is really what we are trying to do, to strike a balance. Even when you look at the delegates that are invited, mostly rural women as well, activists, those people that are at grassroots level, because we just do not want to have an elitist movement that is occupied by educated women, and we have left out our counterparts that are found in the rural or peri-urban areas. So I think going forth, and I speak to all women organizations, we need to strike a balance, and we really need to go to grassroots level to ensure that there is adequate exclusion of all women, whether you are in rural areas or urban areas.
Okay, through the employer training grant, we are able to see the different programs that the employers are giving to their employees. So then we actually cluster those different programs as per their different types. And then further research is done through our research division. And then we would then contact the employers, and together with the employers and our industry skills committees, then programs are developed by our TVET programs division. Yeah.
So it's really tailor-made to deal with the requirements that employers face.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yes.
That's excellent. And you were speaking earlier about the need to encourage agriculture specifically to participate more in the program, in the grant. But do you think that our agricultural entrepreneurs and business owners, do they have a clear idea of the qualifications that are available, the steps to take in order to upskill their employees?
You know, they are the industry experts. So I think that, or I do believe that in terms of their needs, they are better vested to actually advise the NTA in regards to the type of programs that the NTA need to develop. Because historically, if you look at TVET in Namibia, some programs were not really in the TVET stream.
Yes.
Yeah, but now we do have more agricultural programs
Okay.
that some of our VTCs are offering. So we also have employers that through engagement with the NTA, they have come up with training institutions, such as AGRA is one such institution that now has training programs in agriculture.
Oh.
So we encourage employers to actually engage with the NTA and find out more about the programs that are offered in TVET in general.
Do you find that the training ecosystem in Namibia is growing and expanding?
Yes, the ecosystem is actually growing, but we also know that the NTA cannot do it alone.
Yes.
Which is why the implementation of the levy was actually a blessing for the NTA, because then that relationship between employers and NTA actually provides the necessary information that is actually required for the NTA or government through the NTA to actually develop programs that are suitable to the market, instead of just developing programs that we may think are needed, whereas the industry may not necessarily require those.
I would very much like to get your insight about something. You mentioned what people may think. You know, we often hear as Namibians that there's a skills gap, there's a lack of skills. But then in my experience as a journalist, I often come across stories celebrating the skills that Namibian workers have. For instance, recently I was speaking to somebody from the gold mining industry who said that when they had built their mine in Namibia, they took more than 100 Namibians to go build their next mine in Mali because of the skills of Namibians. So where is the truth? Is it that we are unskilled, or are we very skilled? Or from your experience, how would you characterize our situation?
Yeah, from my experience, I think the Namibian people, we have this thing where we actually underestimate ourselves and the skills that we have. Because also through engagement, I came across an employer that was saying that they've been to the UAE, whereby they look for more chefs and cooks from Namibia. But when you look at the Namibian industry, we feel like we don't have enough people who are qualified in tourism and hospitality in general.
Yes.
But also, I think the other problem also is the fact that most of our VTCs has been training up to level 3 for too long.
Yes.
But now we are busy upgrading to level 4 and 5, so that we can have more artisans out there. I know it's a progressive thing to do, because in order for you to train at a higher level, you must have a qualification higher than the level where you want to train. So for Namibia, that has been a bit of a challenge, but that is why on our program, through the levy, we have a program where we are upgrading the skills of trainers so that they can train at higher level.
There are a number of things that we can do. If enforcement of the fine rules and regulations that we have are certain, people change when the penalties are severe. For instance, from this data that I've collected here, people who drive recklessly, people who drive with accidents that involve fatalities, where people die, sometimes get imprisoned. In other jurisdictions, you have got penalty systems where basically if you drive recklessly, not only do they confiscate your license, but they sometimes put penalties on your license like points, and then afterwards your licenses are confiscated, and sometimes your car is going to be confiscated. There are countries where they will take your car, and there are times where you will go to prison. Now, as a deterrent, when there is a guarantee that you are probably going to be caught, the penalties are going to be applied, and that they are not necessarily avoidable, or that you are not going to escape them. When there are those certainties, people are going to be careful. For instance, if people know that they are going to lose their license and they are not going to be able to drive, they are a taxi driver, and if they lose their license, they are going to lose their livelihoods, then they are going to know that they have got to be careful about these things. So some of these deterrents are, when they are consistently applied, people's behavior gradually changes. And for instance, I'll give an example. Namibians have gone and live in UK, and we have heard about all the antisocial behavior that they have there. But very quickly they have realized that those rules that says no drinking and driving are applied. There are cameras that are going to catch you, and when you are caught, the penalties are going to be swift, they are going to be severe, and they are going to be effective. And lots of Namibians who live and drive around in the UK obey the rules. So I'm saying that if we know that the penalties are going to apply, and they are going to be consistent, and they are going to be not things that you are going to sidestep and try to avoid, then people start to change. The change is going to be gradual.
I think you are sketching a very utopian situation. I mean, this is Namibia. And in Namibia, we have certain kind of societal structures, even the line at the bank. If you are somebody important, you don't have to stand in line. You know, you can be somebody, and then the rules don't apply to you. And that is a system that we've inherited. It came from colonial through apartheid, and it still applies today. So I don't see how you want to apply that corrective measure within our Namibian reality. There will always be some Namibians who don't have to
obey the rules.
Obey the rules.
Yes, so I'll give you an example. We are standing at Home Affairs in the queue, and a certain gentleman came and he told about how he has got to go and meet the minister and all of those kinds of things. He tried to jump the queue.
Yes.
The lady at the counter said, sir, can you go and stand in the queue? And he said, no, I have got this meeting and that meeting. And she said, sir, you can stay there. You can stay there as long as you want. If you don't stay in the queue, unfortunately, I'm not going to help you. Simple thing. I know that gentleman, and I saw what he was trying to do. He even came to talk to me. Until he went back to the queue, basically, he wasn't safe, and that was that lady there. In another case at the Home Office, again, there was this example of people where one person stands in the queue and keeps moving forward. When they are coming right to the end of the queue, 5 other people are coming in. I'm not going to mention which place they are from, but apparently from that place, that's common. 5 people come in and they said, we were here in the queue. But this lady who is a security there said, I'm sorry, sir, but I only saw Albert standing, that gentleman standing here. All of you go back to the queue or you get out of here. Now, that kind of zero tolerance examples that I've given you, I have seen with my own eyes. So when it becomes unacceptable, and when that person who serves you says, unless you are in the queue, nothing is going to happen. I've seen that many times, and I am one of those ones who speak up if people want to jump the queue. Older people are allowed to go in front of the queue in the banks and stuff like that. That's allowed. But they are, you see, behavior can be changed. I'll give you an example. There is a certain country, I'm not going to mention which one. That country, people were known for drinking too much. A new president came, and that president, I remember that president saying, nope, there's going to be no drinking in public from now onwards. I traveled to that country, and we have told very quickly that no, this new president, nobody drinks here in public. It's not allowed. That society in those 10 years that president was there have completely transformed themselves because he brought in laws, and he said, nobody is going to tell me. He said, no, I have experience in our own household, the damage that alcohol does to the family. And nobody's going to tell him. He implemented those laws as the president. He brought in decrees, and then that society changed today. I go to that society quite a bit, and I've seen it those years ago, what it was like, and I know what it was like. One man decided this is unacceptable. He happened to be. We have presidents in this country. We have got police chiefs in this country. If they start zero tolerance about some of the behaviors, then they will. Some of these people are going to start. And if a few people start to change, the rest of them don't have a choice but to change.
Okay, I'll accept that on face value, although I will point out that even now with our vision April 2026 that the Minister of Health just brought in, there's now a separate ward for high-ranking government officials when they have to go to public hospital services like Karatura State, apart, separate from the service that the rest of us have to endure. So, but what I actually wanted to ask you is, do you think that introducing road rules and education about what we're supposed to do when on the road in school could have an impact into shaping the Namibian drivers that we will become?
Well, those are all good things, but we have got the good rules already. We have got the regulations already. Every long weekend, we have got MVAs and the road authorities and the traffic officers giving us all sorts of advice about how we should behave. But the problem that we have is, I'll give you an example. Many years ago, I was living abroad. I came here over maybe the 1st to the 4th of May. And 1st was Friday, 4th was a Monday. And the traffic police chief announced on a Thursday before the long weekend that it's unacceptable, people should behave, it should be no drink driving. He got arrested on Sunday for drink driving.
The chief?
Yeah, the chief got arrested on Sunday for drink driving. Now, what does it say to the society that wants to change when those ones that are tasked with obeying the rules break the rules? So it is actually the behavior is often, if it is not punished, often if we think people can get away with it, people can go and bribe somebody there to get off the fines. That's the problem. Now, you mentioned something about the ward where where the officers should be treated differently. That's apartheid system. That's a terrible idea. And actually, all of us pay tax. I'm a teacher. I pay tax. How different am I from a government minister? Why should the government minister get preferential treatment? We have gotten rid of apartheid. The government should stop those kinds of nonsense. That's apartheid. And the thing is bringing apartheid back through the back door. If the senior government officials have got to go to that ward, every one of us who pay tax should be allowed to go to that ward. That is absolute nonsense, and that brings those two-tier systems, and that brings the reasons why people don't do things properly is when we have got those kinds of nonsense where there is one rule for this group of people and the other rule for someone else. No, we are all citizens. We are all equal under law, and nobody should have these double standards where we should have those kinds of nonsense. And that's why people also, lots of important people break these rules because they think they can go and buy their way out of paying fines.
Yeah. I agree with you, sir, but I also would like to emphasize that even if the system is not fair, that does not mean that I, as an individual, have to choose to participate in that unfair system. If I understand why the road rules are there, I can apply those road rules for my safety, the safety of my passengers, and even the safety of my fellow road users. I still have the opportunity for myself and obligation to do what I know is right.
Yes. Now, that is what should be. But there is a gulf between what should be and what happens in reality. And where do we take our cues from? We watch those people who are important people in the society. We watch their behavior and we try to mimic their behavior. So if our leaders drive safely, if our leaders obey the rules, if the police officers obey the rules, if the traffic officers don't try to avoid paying the fines, then the rest of us fall in line. But if we see that those ones who are in authority break the rules habitually, I remember a Chinese lady that had driven past a red light, and I actually found her at a certain place and I asked her why she did that, and she said, yeah, everybody does it in this country.